Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Snipe and Score podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about playoff predictions. Sean, what do you got?
All right, we got playoff predictions today, episode 3 of the Snipe and Score podcast. Thank you guys so much again for all your views, all your contributions. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we'll keep doing our best for you. All right, rounding things off first, we're going to start with the East. The Atlantic. We'll start off with the Atlantic. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a 3-team race. I think it has been for most of the year. My 1 seed is going to be Florida. They're the big bad boys in the Eastern Conference, especially in the Atlantic, the defending champions. I think when they get Marchand back, when they get Chuck back, and they create the adver mentioned last week scumbag line of Marchand, Kachuk, and Bennett together, I think it's a team that you're not going to want to play in the playoffs, especially after they get Ekblad back. They added Jones. Paul Maurice got that team playing playoff hockey all year round, so I think they're going to be very formidable. My number 2 seed, I'm going to go outside the box here. I think that Tampa's going to jump Toronto. I think Tampa Bay, they're starting to hit their stride a little bit. They made a good deadline move getting Gord, a playoff guy, and they've got Bjorkstrand alongside your big guns in Point and Sorelli and Hagel and Hedman. I think he's hurt. He might be do some research on them pretty quick, Sean, see if he's out or not. I know he got hurt in the game against Buffalo a couple weeks ago, but he could be back. But regardless, with Hedman on the back end, with McDonough that's had playoff experience, and Cernak is a guy you don't want to play against. He's big and nasty. And obviously they got the big cat, Andre Vasilevsky, that, he's a top 3 goalie in the league, especially when he's on his game. So, and then my 3 seed, Toronto.
Sorry, 1 second. Hedman is day-to-day with a lower body injury.
Okay. So we'll get Hedman back for the playoffs, whether he's 100% or not. Who knows? Regardless, I'd rather have a 50% Victor Hedman than half the defensemen in the NHL, to be quite honest. He's just that damn good. And then Toronto, they made a really good deadline. They added some depth in Straw Mountain, and finally they get a top right-handed defenseman in Brendan Carlo. Is this year that they break this streak of being able to get out of the second round? Well, we got to mention it because they did win a playoff series a couple years ago, so we can't say getting out of the first round. But is it the year that they actually finally make a run here and not just go, hey, we went out of the first round once and they get knocked out in 5 to a Florida team that went on to lose to Vegas in the Cup Finals in 23? 23. I don't know. I think it all kind of depends on if Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, Briley, the core fours they call them, if they show up in the playoffs, and if finally Craig Berube is going to be able to get this team over the hump that this core has not been able to get over in, crazy enough to think, 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
And changes are going to come because Mitch Marner's not going to be back next year. There's a chance that John Tavares doesn't come back, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll take a nice deal and come back to Toronto. I think that's where he's going to retire. But if they're going to make a run with this core, this is the last year they have a chance to do it. So I don't know. Over to you, Sean.
No arguments for me other than the fact that I think the way that Atlantic is set up right now, or as of right now when we're recording, I got Florida at 1, Toronto at 2, Tampa at 3. I can see 2 or 3 going either way. Like you said, if the Lightning jump back up, wouldn't surprise me. If the Maple Leafs drop one spot, certainly wouldn't surprise me. But I'd expect Toronto and Tampa to play in the playoffs round 1. It's just a matter of who gets home advantage. But starting things off with the Panthers, they're absolutely insane. Especially that line, Bennett, Marchand. Hopefully Marchand returns from injury soon. I'm sure he will.
Let me see here. You talk. I'll do some research for you.
But can't forget about Barkov, obviously the best player. But as of right now, the way it looks right now, Florida is, in my opinion, the favorite to win the East, go back to the Stanley Cup. Whether or not they win the Stanley Cup again, that's to be determined. I think the Jets are probably the favorite for that. But, I'd even say the Panthers
we'll get to them.
I think the Panthers are even slightly better than the Caps right now, even though the Caps are the first to clinch. Even though the Caps beat them in the regular season. They swept them in the regular season, actually. But, no, I think the Panthers, there's way too much talent on that team. I think they've got a lot of momentum heading back into the playoffs. And then, looking back down to the Maple Leafs, I always compare the Maple Leafs, and I'm sure you do the same too, to the Dallas Cowboys, right? They have so much tension around them, and yet they can't get past, that second round of the playoffs. We'll see what happens. They're definitely talented enough to get past that second round, but, can they exercise the demons? That's the real question. Way too much talent on that team not to, right? I agree with you when you say that Marner's going to be a Leaf for life, right?
Not Tavares.
Oh, what was that?
Tavares.
No. I think Marner's also going to be a Leaf for life. I
No,
don't think
he's
Marner's going
gone.
anywhere. No, I
He's
think
gone.
they're gonna find a way to re-sign him. No.
They're not going to pay him. They can't pay him $13 million. He's gone.
Comment down below. What do you think? Do you
He's
think the
gone.
Leafs will re-sign
Marner's
Marner?
gone. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to get paid a lot of money. He's gone. He's not, and especially even still, if they get if and when, haha, Leaf fans, I'm telling you right now, when our playoff prediction videos come out, I am having y'all get knocked out in the first round again because it's going to happen.
Look, I wouldn't doubt it, but I'm just going to say right now, I think the Leafs are not going to break apart that first line, and Marner is going to be back.
Marner's going to go because as soon when they get knocked out of the playoffs again, and the season's called a failure again by the entire fan base. Shout out Steve Dangle. Somebody's got to go, and it's going to be Marner because he's going to be the odd man out because he's the one that doesn't show up in the playoffs. Nylander does, Matthews does occasionally, but Marner's nowhere to be found, so it's going to be Mitch.
Okay, let me put it this way. I think the Leafs would be a little, I don't know if dumb is the right word, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with the fact that, or I wouldn't necessarily agree with them bringing back Marner, but I think with a talent like Marner, yeah, maybe it doesn't show up in the playoffs, but I think when it's all said and done, they will bring him back. I think
so.
they're going to find a way. That's just my opinion, but I don't think I would though.
Update on Marchand. His return date is expected to be April 8th, so with a couple weeks left in the regular, literally a week left in the regular season.
And plus, not to mention, salary cap increase. So Marner, he's only going to get more expensive, right? I mean, what he's going to get in the offseason, I think you and I would both agree he's probably going to get slightly overpaid.
13.5 is my projection.
What do you think about that? I think that's a little too high.
Taking the market, Rantanen wanted 12 or 13, but he took 12.5 because no taxes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's nuts. I really think it's nuts.
Marner's going to. I'm telling you, the bigger teams aren't going to be able to afford him unless they clear cap. So he's going to go to a team cap or taxes. Hopefully, one specifically that has 8% state taxes.
But you know what? That's what happens when the cap increases. Players' salaries only grow bigger.
Yes, but we're going to go over the Metro. I think now we can go through your top three teams in the Metro who are going to make it.
All right, number one seed. I don't think there's any objection here. It's going to be the Capitals,
who are already locked in the playoffs. No, mind you.
But I think it's all going to depend on what the Capitals do in the playoffs, right? We know what they can do in the regular season. They've really struggled in the first period recently. So, heading into the playoffs, it's really going to just determine how fast can they compare to a team like the Panthers or the Hurricanes or, even if they play the Senators in the playoffs. I think the Senators are the more physical team. I think they're going to punch them in the face, actually. So the Senators are definitely a team I don't want the Capitals to play in the first round. But, yeah, it's really going to translate to how well do the Capitals play in the playoffs. Do they show up or do they fall under pressure? I'm really curious, But if we see this same Capitals team in the playoffs that we're seeing right now, man, they're going to be tough to beat. But, until then, let's play it by ear first. Then we'll see how well they do. Who do you got at your number one seed, I'm assuming?
I got Washington. I disagree with your take. I know you're a Caps fan. You see more than I do. I think they get out of the first round quite easily.
It'll depend. If they play a team like New York, I still think New York is going to play them tough. Montreal,
if they play the Rangers, they're going to sweep them in 4.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. I think we beat Montreal in 6.
Those are the two teams you'd be looking at. Maybe New Jersey, maybe if they fall off and the Rangers make a push. And I think you get, especially since Jack Hughes isn't coming back. I think you got, regardless of who you play, whether it's Montreal. I don't think y'all are going to play Ottawa because I think they're going to get the one wild card spoilers for later.
I sure hope so.
So I'd be looking at Montreal, the Rangers, and possibly New Jersey. We'll get to New Jersey here in a second about what I got to say about them. But
man, you think New Jersey's going to collapse?
We'll see. We'll get to that when we get there.
I've got them as my 3rd seed and Carolina as my 2nd seed. Carolina, okay, I'll say this about Carolina. They have defied all odds after the Rantanen trade. They're 8-2.
No, they didn't win 6 straight because they lost. They got pummeled last night by LA.
They're 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah.
So despite what the front office did with Rantanen, they don't let the outside noise get to them. I think they're really holding their own. I think they're doing a fantastic job for all the drama that's been in that franchise for the last month or so. So, good for them. So I'll have them as my 2nd seed. Whether or not they show up in the playoffs is to be determined. But, I think they'll do well. I could see them going as far as the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I've also got Carolina as my 2 seed. Maybe Mikko Rantanen was really the problem in Carolina. Was there for a month, didn't really do too much. And, the noise kind of around him was kind of hurting the team. And they won 6 straight after the fact, and they've been great, minus last night where they got pummeled by LA. I don't know what the final was. I'm going to look it up quick. They were down 6-0, I think, at one point in that game. But yeah, Carolina, I think that they're an interesting team because they move out, as we mentioned last week, they moved out their top scorer at the time, Marty Natchez, and a great depth guy in Jack Drury for Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall, and then they move Rantanen for Stankoven. So, and then they get Mark Jankowski, who's actually been fairly decent for him, from what I've seen. They're a very deep team, and they play a very defensive heavy first system, which is really good in the playoffs, where you have to be more strategic when it comes to how you make your offense, and especially in the playoffs, usually your defense turns it in the offense. Obviously, Aho, Svechnikov are going to be great. Jacob Slavin's arguably the best defensive defenseman in the NFL or NHL. For me, for Carolina, it all comes down to goaltending. Will Freddie Anderson be back? They're going to give Kochetkov the reins, the young goalie that they got. It all kind of comes down to goaltending because I think they have the manpower up front, the offense, and they got guys like Jordan Martinook, who's not talked about enough, and Jordan Stahl, all been there forever. He's pretty much the essential hurricane when you think of guys that have wore that sweater.
Yeah.
They're just a deep team. Like, and they got a lot of guys. Like they might have a couple stars, but like in the end of the day, it's like they got a lot of guys that you don't talk about, but they play a playoff style of brand of hockey, and they're set up to go. My 3 seed's New Jersey, and I'm not completely sold on this team as my 3 seed, but we're just gonna throw it in there for now because I don't think the Rangers are gonna jump them in the Metro. This would be a lot different topic if Jack Hughes was playing, but he's out for the year with he had shoulder surgery. Yeah, and they say shoulder, but I'm pretty sure gauging how it looked in the boards and how it looked with my past experience, he probably broke his collarbone, clavicle, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sheldon Keefe has given this team a lot of flack, whether it's the defensemen on Nevich. Sean brought up a point earlier about Jonathan Kovacevic kind of getting some of the ire of Sheldon Keefe, the head coach.
Yeah, that's funny.
And also, you got to remember Sheldon Keefe coached that Leafs team that made out of the first round once in his 4 years he was there, 5 years, including that 3-1 blowing in the bubble year against Montreal when they had a 3-1 lead and blew it and lost the year Montreal made it the Cup final.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if Jacob Markstrom can carry this team, they got a good enough defense core, and they still got Heischer, they still got Bratt, and they've got Ajay Palat, who tends to turn up his game in the playoffs. So if they can get some decent goaltending into their depth scoring to carry the load that Hughes would have, then I think they'll be okay. But if not, they're getting swept by Carolina or losing at 5 to Carolina in the first round. Like I don't see this team doing too terribly much. I can even see them falling in the wild card, but again, I don't see the Rangers having a late enough push to do that.
So you think the Devils are actually going to fall off, is what you're saying?
Not even, like, they don't have their best player, and they just, without Hughes, they're not as a scary threat, especially with how, I don't want to call it toxic, because they've got a decent record, but, like, some of the comments that Keefe makes, and people have seen how Simon Nemec has played, like, he's just kind of checked out, like, it's just kind of like, it's just, the culture's not great. I mean, sometimes you want coaches to be hard asses, but like, when you're fighting in a spot like that, they're not necessarily fighting for a playoff spot. They're up on the Rangers by 3 games, but that's just not great to call out your players for like, hey, he says something and he's like, well, he just needs to play better. It's like, well,
yeah,
I understand that, but Jonathan Kovacevic is in your top 4. I'm pretty sure he's in your top 6. He's there for a reason. You guys extended him for a reason. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Hockey's full of toxic masculinity. It always has, always will be.
Right.
So we'll see. I don't see New Jersey doing too terribly much. They started out hot, flickered out, and then Hughes got hurt, and they didn't do too terribly much at the deadline. So I mean, I really don't see too much out of New Jersey.
I don't disagree with that actually. For those who don't know, Sheldon Keefe during one of his press conferences after I forget which game it was, but Kovacevic, I guess a reporter mentioned that Kovacevic was talking to the players in the locker room about, hey, we need to play with a playoff mentality. And Sheldon Keefe said to one of the reporters, like in the middle of his comment, Kovacevic just needs to play better. I don't know. So, that's interesting because we were just talking about the Maple Leafs and, can they get over that second round, those second round demons?
Yeah.
And I think that all comes back to Sheldon Keefe.
Yep.
We'll see if Toronto does get past that second round. Maybe the problem was Sheldon Keefe. Maybe he was part of that toxicity.
Well, we'll just tie it back really quickly too. That Keefe had success in the AHL. I think he won a Calder Cup with the Marlies.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
but he was a great regular season coach, but playoffs came and he'd get tactically spanked every year by Boston or Tampa or Florida, except the one year where Tampa had a down year and they beat them in 6 or 7 in Tampa. But then they found Paul Maurice in that Florida team that was an 8 seed that came back and beat Boston, who has the NHL record for wins and points, and they got spanked by the Panthers in 5.
Yeah.
But now they get a guy, Craig Berube, who took a Blues team that was dead last in the NHL and won a couple of them. So they get a little bit better of a guy that also plays Western Conference style hockey, which is a little bit more harder. It's a little bit different, grittier style of game. And they're going to bring it over to the East, so we'll see. I mean, the same thing went for Paul Maurice. Like, he coached for Winnipeg for all those years. Western style of hockey brought to Florida, and they've been the class of the Eastern Conference since.
Yeah.
Maybe the same thing will be for Leaf fans, but I hope to God that that's the case.
Yep. I'm sure, going back to the Devils, I'm sure they love to say it right now, hey, Jack Hughes, Cody Glass is here. We're all good.
Yeah, but like, Cody Glass is not that guy.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, back to your point, at the deadline, I'm sure they love to say that right now, but they didn't do much at the deadline, so you can't really say that. So, but that being said, though, even though they didn't do much there, I still think they're a talented enough team to make some kind of noise in the playoffs. I'm sure they're either going to play either the Panthers or the Canes, right?
No, they won't play Florida. They'll play Carolina because remember how that works. 1 seed plays the 8 seed, and then the 1 seed in the Metro gets the 7, which is the top wild card, and then it's 2 and 3 play each other from both conferences.
But what I'm saying is, if they fall down to that first wild card spot, they could play.
If they go to the first wild card spot, they're playing.
Because the Rangers aren't going to jump. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Rangers definitely aren't going to jump.
In a scenario that the Devils collapse, which we've seen happen with teams before, and the Rangers make a push and they make the playoffs, and one of my two teams that are in the wild card jump get knocked out, which I would be. Yeah, Sean, I would be super surprised if that happens. I doubt it's going to. They'd be playing Florida, and that'd be a sweep. I don't see any world that New Jersey. They might. Okay, I'll give 5. They'll beat them in 5, but because New Jersey will win 1 at home. Just like they'll go down 2-0, they'll win 1 at home, and then lose the next 2 because you know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see New Jersey doing too terribly much. I don't know if you got anything else to say on that. Then
no, I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think there's enough talent there to at least make some kind of noise against whoever they play. Do I think they're a first round exit? Yeah, probably. Especially without Jack Hughes. So no, I agree with all that. How about we move on to the West? How about that?
You want to do wild cards last one?
You know what? Totally forgot about the wild cards. You're right. I think you and I both agree on this. Ottawa's kind of a lock for that first wild card spot.
I hate to say it, but yeah. I hate these 2 picks because I'm a Sabres fan, but bias out of the way. Yeah. Ottawa is probably going to make it, and I want to make something perfectly clear to every single Senators fan that is probably never going to watch this, but I don't care. Specifically the guy that runs Locked On Senators, you blithering idiot. Ottawa. I don't know. I laughed when they signed Travis Green as the head coach. Good God, was I wrong.
Yeah, he's really proven the doubters wrong.
They have turned it up in the second half of the year, and they had a great trade deadline. They were probably one of the top winners. Fabian Zetterlund's going to be a great piece. They got the aforementioned Buffalo outcast Dylan Cousins along with Dennis Gilbert, who will help that 7th role when they need to bring in a guy that has grit. They're just they're a solid team with Giroux and Brady Tkachuk and Stützle, and they've got Ullmark to back him up. Ullmark's a great goaltender. We'll see what he does in the playoffs because recently in the playoffs he's not been great for Boston, so we'll see what that does. They've got obviously Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson on the back end.
Yeah.
And they're a deep team. I mean, they've got Shane Pinto down the middle. They got a really good center core.
Yeah.
They've had some really hot streaks recently, but we'll see. It's a very young team, but they've got enough veteran leadership on that team that should be able to get them that has playoff experience. I think they could make a run playing the right team, and I really do believe that Ottawa could be. I wouldn't want to play an Ottawa team unless they come in hurt or not hot. I don't want to play the Senators team because there's going to be a lot of kids on that team that will be ripping and ready to go for their first ever playoff appearance. And I mean, good on Ottawa and good on the ownership group there. I forgot his name, but he's doing an excellent job there after he took over for the unfortunate passing of Eugene Melnick after he passed a couple of years ago. But he's done a fantastic job of getting the Senators team to be competitive again. And he's doing a great job. My second one, and they've made a push late in the year. Montreal, man, Marty St. Louis does not get enough credit for how good of a coach he is. And he's got these kids that we all thought were going to be bottom 5 in the league in a playoff spot right now. Cole Caulfield has been outstanding. Nick Suzuki, you already know who he is. He's been a stud.
Yep.
Slavkovsky's good.
Haha, Vegas.
Yeah, haha, Vegas. Max Pacioretty for Nick Suzuki. That was a great trade there,
Capitals
boys.
legend, Max Pacioretty.
Yeah, they're just Brendan Gallagher is the kind of stalwart on that team. He's like the de facto captain. I know he doesn't wear the C. I'm pretty sure Suzuki does, but Gallagher's the heart and soul of that Habs team, and he's going to do everything he can. And then on the back end, they're super young, but Lane Hutson's been a great ad coming up from college last year. He's been fantastic. He's going to be probably in the top 3 of Calder voting. He's not going to win it because there's a certain guy in San Jose that's tearing up the league right now. Yeah, Sean, let's go to you quick while I kind of look up some more info on this roster.
Okay, so going back to Ottawa, obviously they're a lock for the first wild card, I think. I don't see them passing anybody. I don't see them going any lower than what they are right now. And, as things stand, they'll be playing the Panthers, and I think they are going to give Florida a tough time. I really do think that. I wouldn't even be surprised if they, force a Game 7. I don't think they're going to win. I think it'll be close, but, that Kachuk battle, that's going to be fun to watch, man.
It would feed families.
Speaking of feeding families, I think Shane and Giroux do wonders on that third line. I think they're great. Shane brings the speed, Giroux brings that veteran leadership, and he's still putting up great numbers actually for a third liner. I think Senators are going to be a tough team to play in the playoffs. I certainly wouldn't want to play them. I think they're an underrated team. Like you said, I laughed when they hired Travis Green too. But, he's proved all the doubters wrong. So, props to them, and, congrats Senators fans. As annoying as you guys are on Twitter, I can't help but feel happy for you guys because, your team's finally showing up and backing up what you say. So, congratulations. I think the real storyline, though, in the East is who's going to get that second wild card. Who's going to play the Caps? That's how I think of this. You said the Canadians. As of right now, I'll say the Canadians too, but man, this is between 5 different teams?
Yeah.
I think the line kind of stops at Detroit. Detroit's number 6 right now. Detroit, they've been cold cold recently. Ththey're 2-8 in their last 10. That's horrible. They didn't have.
Should have done more with the deadline.
Yeah, no, you're not kidding, dude. I mean, they traded for Mrazek and they traded away Veleno.
That's it.
I wasn't even a fan of that trade to begin with, honestly. So they didn't do anything at the deadline. They're getting worse. So, Yezerman, what are you doing?
Yezerman.
That was Steve Yezerman. Yeah, man, I don't know what to say, man. I think they're right there. They're knocking at the door, but they never seem to get it done, and I think it's a front office problem, in my opinion. And then, you got the Blue Jackets who started off, one of the worst teams in the league for the first almost quarter of the season. They've been kind of cold recently too the past couple weeks since Four Nations stopped, but man, they got pretty hot towards the middle of the season, and I think if they can play the same way they played before Four Nations, I think the Blue Jackets would actually be a little bit of a difficult team to play. If we see that same team though towards the middle of the season that we saw, not the current Blue Jackets that we've been seeing for the first couple weeks or the last couple weeks. And then the Islanders. I'm actually surprised the Islanders are even up here, honestly.
Remotely close, yeah.
They were sellers at the deadline. What are they? So they're 5-3-2 in their last 10. That's pretty good, but props to them for even being there. I don't know. I feel like that'd be kind of lame if they got in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't want to see a team that has a negative 15 goal differential in the playoffs. I know everyone's pointing and laughing last year. I know, haha, Caps had negative 36. Whatever. Okay, but. And you got the Rangers. I think the Rangers are probably the best out of the teams that we've talked about so far. I don't want to say they're neck and neck with Canadians. I think they have a slight advantage over the Canadians.
If there's going to be a team that knocks Montreal out of the wild card spot, it's going to be New York, just because they've got that veteran experience that have been there, done that. Whereas Montreal is super young. I mean, there's guys that I missed over, like Patrick Laine. He's been fantastic.
Yeah.
They got their grit guys with Anderson and Armia, who's been great.
Yeah.
In the back end defensively, they've got Matheson, Savard, Jack-Eye, and then in goal, who do you start? Do you pick up Jacob Dobes or do you start Montembeault?
I think it's got to be Montembeault.
I would assume it'd probably be Montembeault. He was a third goalie back up in Florida, and he's been outstanding for Montreal as a starter. I don't know what they found and they knew about him, but they unlocked something in him.
Yeah, good for him.
He's obviously good for him. He's been fantastic. So, Um, yeah, Ottawa and Montreal. So the Atlantic's going to have 5 teams, which is going to be crazy. Which is we all thought it would be. It was just which of the 4 teams, those 4 teams being Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal, and Ottawa, were going to finally, take that next step. And apparently this year it's Ottawa and Montreal. We'll see if that's sustainable next year and the rest of the year. But now we're going to go to the West, the Central Conference. What do you got, Sean?
One more thing about the wild card, the second spot in the East.
Sure.
What's one thing you notice as of right now when we're recording on Sunday afternoon? What's the one thing you notice about all the teams in contention for that second wild card spot in the East?
They're young.
They're young, but not a single team has a positive goal differential. Now,
I didn't know that.
The Rangers are even, but man, I got to tell you, the Caps, if they somehow choke in the playoffs first round to any of these teams, man, I'd be so mad. But yeah, let's start off with the West.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the Central Division. I've got Winnipeg as my 1 seed. They're going to probably clinch here in a couple days.
Yep.
Honestly, the only reason I got them as the 1 seed is because they got a point standing on Dallas and Colorado. They're a great team, but I don't know how they're going to do in the playoffs. That's my issue.
Yeah.
They obviously got Ehlers, Connor, Scheifele. They added Tanev and Luke Schott at the deadline. Obviously, they got the best goalie in the world right now. Who's going to win the Vezina? If the season ended today, if the season ended a month ago, you could have gave the Vezina to Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
He's just been that good. I mean, it all kind of comes down to, because we thought that year they played Colorado last year that, like, hey, they're going to make some noise and they're going to be great. And they weren't. They didn't know. Hellebuck just didn't do anything. He just didn't make any saves. Just kind of look down the roster here. They got their captain Adam Lowry, Alex Iafallo is super underrated. Rasmus Kapari, Vladislav Nemestikov, Cole Perfetti, he's been outstanding, and obviously Gabe Velarde coming over in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Their back end is steeply underrated. Obviously, they're led by Josh Morrissey, but Neil Pionk is very serviceable. Dylan DeMello is one of the better guys in their bottom 6. But I think it all kind of comes down to how this team's going to perform in the playoffs under pressure again. We'll see. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, actually, I got Colorado as my first. No, I'm just kidding. I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. Winnipeg's a lock for that first seed. And yeah, no arguments with what you said about their team. Kyle Connor, he's a difference maker. Scheifele too. Love the additions of Luke Shen and Tanev at the deadline. I'll reiterate this, but I do think they overpaid for Tanev at the deadline. You can laugh at me all you want, but I still think first, second round picks are valuable. I don't think old players like Tanev, or especially guy on an expiring contract, I just don't think he's worth that compensation. But you know what? If they win the cup, then it's not going to matter. So hopefully they can win the cup, and they're actually my favorite to win the cup right now. I think, as it stands right now, I think we see Florida, Winnipeg, Stanley Cup, and I think Winnipeg probably wins.
That's a take.
In my opinion. Yeah, Winnipeg, I think they're the best team in the league, honestly.
That's a take, because my number 2, or excuse me, no, it's my number 3. My number 2 right now in the Central is Dallas. That team is loaded.
Oh, yeah.
They're loaded. They added Rantanen at the deadline. He's not been great for them. But Dallas has just got a complete team. Let's go look up their roster really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
I think they're the most complete team in the league.
I don't think that they are. There's one team I think is more complete, but we'll get to them just in a second. Obviously, they've got their top line of Johnston, Robertson, and Rantanen, which is just a disgusting top line. They've obviously got the captain, Jamie Benn, been there forever. Dodonov is a good guy. Maverick Bjork is, a great depth piece. Matt Duchene's been always phenomenal.
Yeah, for Pete's sake, they got Wyatt Johnson on their third line.
Yeah, Rope Hintz is phenomenal. Mikhail Granlund's been very solid. Mark Schmidt's just a kind of grit and grind guy that can score. Tyler Seguin, if and when he comes back, I think he's already is back, but if he can return to somewhat of a form he was, and then obviously, hopefully that they'll get Miro Heiskanen back for the playoffs here soon. But if not, they got Thomas Harley, Team Canada legend, to carry them, and Esa Lindell's great. And then CC and Lyubushkin are great defensive guys. And then in goal, as always, they've got the Otter, Jake Ottinger. He's phenomenal, and we'll see. As long as this team doesn't beat themselves, man, they're going to be in the Western Conference Final. Then I don't see there's any way that they aren't. Again, unless they beat themselves or they have some kind of massive injury. This team is just built to just dominate for the next few years, and there's a good chance it happens.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they're absolutely disgusting. But let's see how they do in the playoffs. Let's also see how Winnipeg does in the playoffs, because as of right now, if both teams play the way they are right now, like the way they have been in the regular season, I still think Winnipeg is better, in my opinion.
I don't think so.
I think Dallas, looks more talented on paper, but I think if Winnipeg plays the way they have been in the regular season, I think they make it to the Cup, and they beat Dallas, in my opinion. But no, like you said, Dallas is they're loaded for years to come. We'll see what they can do, but we'll see who shows up, who doesn't. But I'm still picking Winnipeg.
This is gonna be my hot take of probably the podcast today. My most complete team, and my team I think is going to go out of the West and win this cup and go to the finals, is Colorado. The Abs. This team is loaded. Oh my gosh. They've got Hart candidate Nathan McKinnon. They've got Charlie Coyle, great third line center. They've got Brock Nelson, great depth guy to have in the second line. And then they've got Jack Drury just to solidify the fourth line. He's a great bottom six guy. They are loaded in the most valuable position in the playoffs, and that is center. They are loaded. And then they've got Jonathan Drouin, who's having a little bit of a career resurgence alongside of McKinnon, and I think he's playing alongside Natchez. You pull the lens, it's either him or Lehkonen. Marty Natchez is a stud. As long as Valeri Nichushkin stays off the sugar, as they say, and stays out of trouble, he's always a stud. Logan O'Connell, Miles Wood. Their team is so much depth at the forward core, and it gets even more disgusting when you look at the defense core. You've got a top two of Devon Taves and Kel McCarr. McCarr arguably one of the top defensemen in the league. And then they're on their second pair. They've got Josh Manson and Sam Girard, which has always been a very good pairing for them. And their bottom pair, they've got Ryan Lindgren, and then you can probably put in Eric Johnson or Sam Malinsky that's going to play in that spot. They are just loaded defensively. However, the one thing that could kill this team in the playoffs.
Eric Johnson.
No. Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood. Goaltending. That is what could kill this team in the playoffs. However, I think that Mackenzie Blackwood, who will probably be the starter in the playoffs, will be good enough to be able to be just good enough to carry this team in the playoffs. It happened with Francouz. It happened with Kemper back when they won the Cup in 2022. So I think that if the Abs just get good enough goaltending, just like above average goaltending, it's gonna be them versus Dallas in the Western Conference Final, in my opinion. And if not, I think Colorado's going to the Cup. This team is too deep not to make a massive run at the Cup.
That is exactly why you just mentioned it. I don't think Colorado is the most complete team in the league, and Dallas is, because Mackenzie Blackwood is Colorado's starting goaltender. That's going to be their kryptonite. They're as loaded as anyone. But man, dude, come time for the playoffs, Mackenzie Blackwood is going to win them a cup. Sorry, but it's not going to happen. They have the best centers in the league. I mean, McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, Drury. I mean, that's disgusting. I'd love to see how this team would have done if Landeskog were on the ice.
He's actually, I forgot to mention him. Good thinking on that. He will be back for the playoffs most likely, from the reports I'm hearing. So once they get Gabe Landeskog back, hopefully we want to see Gabe Landeskog play. That dude is, been fighting his rear end off to get back here to play hockey again.
Yeah, but man, would you bring him back in the postseason?
Yes.
The way they're playing right now?
Yes.
Would you want to even try to experiment with that chemistry? Really?
Yes. He's the captain.
I know, but I mean, man, he hasn't played in a while.
He's a juice guy.
I know, but
even if he plays in the fourth line and plays 10 minutes a game, he's gonna be a good asset for this team.
You're right. I just wouldn't want to mess up that chemistry.
And to go on your
who would you scratch?
Parker Kelly.
No, but he's already scratched.
No, he's not. He plays minutes.
What? Oh, I didn't even know that.
Currently, Blackwood is 19-8 in 29 games played. He has a 2.22 goals against average and a outstanding a .917 save percentage. So he's been really good for Colorado currently. Then again, you got to think he's coming.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's coming off a San Jose team that was terrible, so you understand why his numbers are kind of bad. But we'll see what Blackwood does. He's been really good for Colorado, so hopefully the Abs continue to see that success for them.
I just don't think he shows him the playoffs. I'm sorry, but man, I don't trust Blackwood. I'm sorry, I don't.
I don't blame you, but I've got enough faith that they want a couple Kemper and Pavel Francouz to do what they can do it with Wedgwood.
Okay,
Wedgwood and
yeah,
Blackwood.
you know what? That's true.
The Woods.
Wait, so help me understand the bottom six. They got Quill and Drury, obviously. They got Miles Wood.
Bottom six.
Right. But Joel, help me with that last name.
Joel Kiviranta.
Yeah.
Yoel Kiviranta.
Yeah. And then Jimmy Vesey and Ross Colton.
Yeah, Colton's on the third line, I would assume, with
right.
Colton's on the third line with
right
O'Connor and Wood, and then they'll have on the fourth line they'll have Drury with
Wood and Vesey.
Yeah, Wood and Vesey.
So Landeskog comes back. Who do you scratch?
Vesey, easily.
Then what do you do with Parker Kelly?
Vesey's already scratched at that point. They kind of rotate their guys, They're one of those teams that'll rotate guys depending on how they're matching up.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be really interesting.
If Landeskog comes back, I see him instantly jumping to the second line. Well, he'll be a third liner, I think. We'll see. Well, we'll get to that hopefully in a month's time when we talk about round one of the playoffs.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt they're dangerous. I just question their goaltending. All right, how about the Pacific?
Vegas, number one. Duh.
Yep,
they're always going to be competitive as much as we all hate them.
I still think they're going to the conference finals. Not sure they'll make the cut, but I think they're going to get there.
I don't think so. They've got Jack Eichel, who's having his best year of his, so far to this point, having his best year of his career. He's undoubtedly their best player. They're very, very solidified up front. They've got Barbashev, Dorofeyev. There we go. Mark Stone, obviously, if he's healthy and not in IR, giving them cap space. Brett Howden's been a very good player for them down the middle. William Karlsson, obviously. Tomas Hertl.
Yep.
Higastar's a great guy down low. Pearson's been good. Nick Waugh, I think he might be hurt. I'm not sure. Brendan Saad.
No, I think he's good.
Riley Smith. They're really good up front, forward wise. They're really talented. They got guys that can play playoff hockey, which is what you need. Defensively, they're also really good.
Yep.
When Shea Theodore comes back, he'll be back soon, I think, alongside Pietrangelo. That's great. Hannafin with White Cloud or Haig. They're outstanding and they're good. And then they've obviously got McNabb.
Yep.
Alongside whoever it may be, whether it's Haig or White Cloud. They're just really good. My question mark for this team is Aiden Hill. He got that massive extension. He's been good, but is that going to be... He's a big reason why they won their first cup 2 years ago.
Yep.
But is it sustainable? I don't think so. I think Vegas gets to the second round and meets a team and gets knocked out.
I don't think they get knocked out in the second round. I actually think they make the conference finals. I think they're that talented.
Well, I mean, they are talented to do that, but I think there's a team that's going to be more talented and they're going to be playing better hockey at that rate to make it.
And I'm going to disagree about Aiden Hill, actually. I think they're right to extend him. I think they're right to give him the money. He showed it 2 years ago in the Cup. I think we know how good Aiden Hill can be in the playoffs. I like the move, actually. And I don't think goaltending is a concern, honestly. I think they're a talented team. I think they know how to do it. They've done it in the past. They've done it almost every year they've been in the league, honestly. I think the Golden Knights are, once again, going to be a scary team in the playoffs. They've got all the talent in the world, honestly. Hopefully Aiden Hill can show back up again. Certainly doesn't concern me. I think they can be just as good as they were 2 years ago, honestly. But, only time will tell, I guess. Who's your number two?
How about you go first, Sean?
We got Edmonton as my number two. Pretty close behind Vegas. I said last week when we were talking about the trade deadline, I still think they can push for a cup. I think they're still talented. Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, all those guys, they carry them.
Jeff Skinner. Okay.
Sabres legend, Jeff Skinner.
Yes.
Don't have McLeod anymore. They traded Holloway to the Blues.
Wasn't a trade.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even a trade. Yeah, they just didn't even. Well, they didn't tender him, right?
No.
No. They didn't pick up his offer sheet.
Thank
right?
you. Him and Roberg.
Right. Okay. So yeah, those moves. Wasn't really a fan of any of those. But otherwise, I still think they're just. I don't know if they're just as good as they were last year, but I still think they're good enough to make some noise in the playoffs.
I think
that's why the playoffs are so exciting.
I think they're about as good as last year. And then again, I don't think they deserve to be in the cup last year. I think there's a couple teams that were better, but they made a good push, and McDavid just became God.
Right. I still think they can push for a cup, but do I think they're going to get back there again? Probably not.
No. I mean, they've got McDavid, who is currently hurt. They've got Draisaitl, who, again, is also currently hurt. That could be a big factor. Arvidsson's a third-line guy. They added Trent Frederick, who'll be good for the bottom six. Henrique's a veteran there. Zach Hyman scores goals. He's great. Matthias Janmark, Max Jones has been solid. Obviously, got Nugent Hopkins. Corey Perry's a 40-year-old down the bottom six. He's just great. He'll be a good depth piece.
Oh, yeah.
Podkolzin, he's fine. And then they got Jeff Skinner to kind of rotate in there on the fourth line. Defensively, they got better. They got Bouchard and Ekholm, who will stabilize Bouchard. And then they've got Nurse and Wallman, which will be a good pairing. And then they can rotate four of these. Oh, sucker. Well, sorry, guys, but we're not going to have Aiden's camera for the rest of the video.
Uh-oh.
Which is fine. It's whatever. But they'll cycle in Emberson, Kulak. Well, Kulak will be in there, so they'll cycle in Emberson, probably most likely with Stetcher and Klingberg.
Yeah.
And then my biggest issue with this team is goaltending. Stuart Skinner, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're either getting a guy that's gonna stop 50 pucks and get you and steal your game, or getting you a guy that's gonna get lip in 5 in 10 minutes.
No, 100%. One other problem that I have with this team, it wasn't a problem last year, and I don't think it will be this year, but, like, one thing that always kind of lingers in the back of my mind is, dude, they got some unks on this team, man. They're old. Like, they're
an older team.
They're one of the oldest in the entire league. So we'll see what happens with that, but, I don't think it'll affect them come playoff time. Like I said, I still think they'll make a push. Third seed, who you got?
I have LA Kings.
Same.
You want to talk about that, Sean?
So, man, they got Byfield, they got Kopitar, they got Deneau. I think they're solid. Are the Kings going to make any noise in the playoffs, though?
No, they're getting knocked out in 7.
Yeah, so do I. I don't know if there's much to talk about the Kings, honestly. I just think, they look talented, but if we're being honest, man.
That's not even the question here. They're talented. They're going to get knocked out in 6 by Edmonton because they can't beat the Oilers. And people get mad at that. It's just that
I'm sorry, but they're stuck in no man's land. They're
tweeners.
Sorry.
They're not going to beat Edmonton. They're going to get knocked out in the first round again. Unfortunately, they're a talented team.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Just they got Fiala, Deneau, Byfield, Vogel.
Yeah. Look, I'm
Kempe.
sorry. Yeah.
Obviously Kopitar. They added Kuzmenko at the deadline. And they've obviously their defense core. They've got Doughty, Spence, Gavrikov, Edmondson, Bryant Clark, Mickey Anderson, and then Kemper. We'll see what we get out of him. That all kind of comes down to him.
Yeah. I'm rooting for you, Darcy.
They're there. They're there. That's the best I can say about them. So they're there.
No PLD this year.
Yeah. My wild cards.
Oh, wait, going back to the Kings, I just got to throw this out there. Have you ever met a Kings fan before? I'm just curious. I'm not throwing any shade at them. I'm just saying, they're a team in LA, one of the biggest cities in the U.S., but I've never actually met any Kings fans.
I know a Kings fan, but
I don't know a single
I've never met one in person.
I've never met a single fan.
Wild card. I'm going to do a rapid fire here. We'll get them both out of the way quick. My one in the wild card is Minnesota. My number 2 is Calgary. We'll start on Minnesota first. The Wild are just a really good team. I don't know when they're going to get Kaprizov back. They need him, especially for the playoffs. He's their best player.
Oh, they've fallen off. Hey, man, can't forget about Brock Faber.
We're going to get there. You love to rag on Brock Faber, but he does not get enough love.
Man, he's great, but, dude, he looks like he's about to throw some math problems at me.
It's okay. They've got Matt Boldy, who's a stud. Eric Sinek, Marcus Foligno, former Sabre. Him and Justin Brazeau and Freddie Gaudreau are going to be great bottom 6. Obviously, Ryan Hartman, he's always there. Vinny Hinostroza came out of nowhere, and he's been phenomenal. Marcus Johansson's always been sneakily consistent. Gustav Nyquist at the deadline, he's been great along with Brazeau. Marco Rossi finally took that next step. Yankov Trenin, he's great for a bottom 6 guy. And Matt Zuccarello, he's always been around. Defensively is where it kind of gets a little slim here. I don't know who. Do some research on me. I think it's Spurgeon and Brodin. I think Spurgeon's still in the lineup, but do a fact check on Brodin really quick for me, please.
No, they're both good.
They're both good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. The top 4 is really good with Middleton, Spurgeon, Brodin, and Faber, and then they've got Bogosian and Merrill, I believe, who's in the bottom pair. It might be Chisholm, I'm not sure. Regardless, it's a really solid defense core. And then goaltending, it's going to be Philip Gustafsson. I know it's got Fleury listed as the one, but it's going to be Philip Gustafsson. He's outstanding. He does not. This Wild team's very underrated in my opinion. They got a lot of guys that are good, but don't get enough love outside of Kaprizov. So they got a lot of good guys. Calgary, I'm taking a swing with this one, guys. Sean, if you want to talk about who you got as yours while I kind of figure out stuff on the Flames here.
So, I also got the Wild as my number 1 seed. They've cooled off, definitely, since the start of the season. I'm sure, part of that has to do with Kaprizov's injury. They're definitely absolutely going to need him back in the playoffs if they want to make any noise whatsoever.
Yes.
And then defensive side, you got my buddy Brock Faber, the statistician himself. I'm sorry, man, but dude, he looks like he's about to recite like Pythagorean's theorem in front of me.
Oh my lord.
No, I'm sorry, Brock. I love you, man. He's great. He's one of their best players.
He's their best defenseman.
Yeah, no, seriously, but just overall, he's one of their best players. Honestly, I mean, on that defensive side of the puck, if he wasn't there, yeah, they'd be struggling.
Oh, timeout. We got to talk about Winnipeg. So they're down 3-2 to Buffalo right now in the third period. What is going on, guys? What is going on, Winnipeg? This should not be happening. I
want to see this Winnipeg team in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
You let Tyson Kozak score, guys. Like, what are you doing? Anyhow, yeah, back to we're gonna go Calgary really quick. They made a couple of swings at the deadline. They got Morgan Frost, and oh, good lord, Joel Farabee. Thank you, Brain. From the Flyers. I think it was a good move. They got Irga Sharangovich. Kadri's always there. Huberdeau starting to look a little better. They've got Connor Zary, Marty Pospisil, Michael Backlund, the captain. He's been there forever. Matt Coronado's been fantastic as a rookie. Blake Coleman's always very solid. The defense core has a little bit to be desired, but their top two of Uyghur and Anderson solid. They've got Ball and Bean, Paschal, and I think Miramanov is the other guy that's in there. And then goaltending-wise, if Dustin Wolf can just be the stud rookie that he has been this year and stand on his head, they can make a series. They can make a series interesting.
No, I don't doubt that.
I don't think they'll get out of the first round if they do make it, but I think they can make a series very interesting, especially since there is a lot of guys on this team that have playoff experience. Yeah, we'll see. They got Ryan Lomberg who won the Cup last year as well. Forgot to mention him. The little pest that he is. The Lamborghini, as he was called in Florida. But, yeah, we'll see what this team does. Yeah, what do you got as the 2 in the wild card?
Yeah, no, I don't doubt anything that you said about Calgary. I got a different team, but talking about Calgary, I think it's so funny how the tables kind of turned with that Huberdeau trade. People say they gave up too much, or the Panthers gave up too much for Kachuk, but
the other way around.
Yeah, now I feel like it's the other way around.
They can give up enough.
Yeah.
Man.
That's crazy. People were laughing and pointing at them like, oh my gosh.
I was one of them.
Florida, what are you doing? But, Kachuk hoisted the Cup last year, so good for Florida, turning the tables. On the other side, Calgary, they kind of dug themselves in their own grave, honestly. They haven't been the same since they traded away Kachuk.
And when Johnny Gaudreau left, God rest his soul.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Rest in peace, Johnny. I just don't. Whoever gets that second wild card spot is just not going to beat the Jets. I'm sorry, but just not talented enough. Jets are way too talented. They're way too stacked.
Definitely not. I don't see it.
My second wild card spot as of right now is the Blues. I think they're hot. Do I think they're going to make any noise in the playoffs? No, but got to pick somebody. I think similar to the East, that big storyline is going to be who gets that second wild card spot. Whoever gets it, get ready to learn first round exit. Sorry, but yeah, could be Utah Hockey Club, could be the Ducks.
No,
not gonna
Anaheim's not going to make it.
Not going to be the Ducks.
Come on.
No, absolutely not. And then you got Vancouver and Calgary. Vancouver, they're coming back a little bit.
We'll see with Vancouver.
I think it could be any one of those 4 teams. Not the Ducks,
I agree, but we'll see.
It'll be close. I'd be curious to see who gets it, but at the same time, whoever gets it, good luck against Winnipeg.
Yeah. Is there anything else in this entire playoff, Eastern or Western Conference that you want to kind of include here before we go on to our random player of the day here, Sean?
I'm getting kind of nervous for the player of the day.
It's okay.
Gonna expose my
I dug into my bag for this
my hockey knowledge.
I dug into my bag.
All right, nothing else I want to add. What do you got for me?
Let me get his name here first.
I don't know how I'm gonna get this. Even if it is a former Cap.
If it is a former Capital.
Oh my God.
You want to do mine first?
All right. I'm trying to see if I can even find one. I actually didn't even have one ready, but I could just come up with one on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I find him real quick. Where is he? Where are you? It's not you. Was it earlier than that? I don't think it was.
Okay, this fella that I'm about to talk about was drafted 3rd overall by the Panthers in 2003.
Oh, okay. Continue.
Okay. Tell you his stats. He started off with the Panthers, obviously in 03 to 04. Okay, he put up 14 goals, 8 assists. After that, he played a season with their, I guess, AHL team called the San Antonio Rampage. Didn't do much there. He played 21 games, put up 5 goals, 4 assists. Went back to the Panthers that same year. In 71 games, he put up 47 points, 28 goals, 19 assists. He played with Florida all up until 2010. Went to the Bruins in 2010. Put up similar numbers, 26 goals, 27 assists, that's 53 points.
I think I know who this is.
And then he played for Columbus in 2013.
I know who this is.
Who is it?
It's Nathan Horton.
You got it. 3 for 3. I'm pretty sure you're 3 for 3.
Yes,
right
I am.
now. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yes, I am.
Is that not how you spell his name?
And Sean Wallace is about to be 0 for 3.
You are.
You say you are?
Yes.
Ouch.
Oh, my Lord. My Lanta. Hang on, guys. I'm sorry. I should have had this pulled up beforehand. I forgot how to spell his name. Okay. Buffalo Sabres goalie 2014. I think he played for them in 2014. I think. Could be wrong. We're going to find out. Yeah, here we go. List of goalies. There we go. That's what I want. Thanks. Hockey reference. Shout out hockey reference.
Oh, wait. So this guy you're about to mention is a goalie?
Yes, he is. You're
Okay.
welcome. That's what you're going to get so far. Where is he? There it is. Oh, that's how you spell his name. Okay. Cool. All right. This goalie was drafted by Washington in the 2nd round in 2006. He made his NHL debut in the 08-09 season for Washington, to where he played up until 2013-14, where he was traded to Buffalo, I believe. And then he went from Buffalo to the Islanders, and then I'm assuming he signed in Philadelphia in 2015, to where he played until 2018. He has a career .910 save percentage and a 2.71 goals against average. Who is this goaltender?
Aiden, do you think I'm that stupid? I think I'm that stupid, Aiden.
Who is it?
The goalie you are talking about, call me 1 for 3, is Michael Neuvert.
Yes. Good job, Shaw. It's Michael Neuvert. Yeah, I thought I'd give you one that we might not talk about, Michael Neuvert, but...
Wow. Can't believe you doubted me. Doubted my crappy hockey knowledge. Wow. Yes, you are. I'm going to be 0 for 3 after today, Sean. Wow.
Subtle jabs. Anywho, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the Snipe Score podcast. We cannot appreciate you guys enough for watching these.
Thanks again, guys.
These mildly well-run podcasts that we do. We try our best here. Tune in next Wednesday is our next record date. We'll give you guys studs and duds, and among other topics in the NHL, along with another player of the day. Eddie Hugh, thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day. See you guys next week. I'm Aiden Showtime Calkins for my co-host Sean Wallace. Thank you guys for tuning in, and look forward to the next episode.
Have a good one, guys.